Well, my new album, Behold Electric Guitar, I'm the lead singer on guitar. I wrote all the songs just like regular songs that would have vocals. Okay, so for example, I wrote a song that went, I own a building and it feels so good to own a building. Got my name on every brick, an extension of mine. That's where I stopped. And then instead of singing it, I learned how to play the vocal melody on guitar. And man, it was so nice because that's an octave higher than I was singing. So I can't hit those notes with my voice, but I can get such a nice tone with the guitar, and I can expand on the melody in ways that my voice couldn't do. So that, it really opened up the world of melody to me like it never has before. Oh my goodness, well, I'm living the dream is what I want to do. And I try to play things I'm excited about. You know, I always want to look at the set list and go like, all right, I'm excited that this next song is what we're playing. And so I think my style keeps changing, and that's one of the things that keeps me interested. If I only played the same style that I did when I was 22 years old, I might get a little tired of it, but I keep finding new places to go in music. I love music, and I think anybody who plays guitar probably loves music. So it's not only playing, it's listening. So you listen to the music you love, and you also listen to what's inside of your head, and which can be scary because sometimes there's nothing in there. You listen like, okay, what melody is going on in my head right now? And there may not be anything. You have to search, or you have to wait until something happens in there and you can bring it out. For me, it actually helped to go to school. I went to GIT, which is also called Musicians Institute. I learned basic music theory and how chords are put together, and I'm sure there are music theory people that are much more advanced than I am, but it was enough to understand Beatles songs and 70s pop and the stuff that I grew up with, and suddenly it allowed me to in a way compose like a keyboard player, because a lot of the music that I listened to was keyboard music, music from Elton John or a lot of the Paul McCartney stuff, or ELO or Todd Rundgren. That was different than the typical guitar chords you'd have, or guitar chords, that sort of thing. Instead you'd have like, or a few more piano-ish chords, and it was great to learn those. Well, I practice differently than I used to. I practice what I'm excited about, and like if I had to, sit and like practice scales, that would be torture. That would, but it was fun when I first did it because it was new. It was like, wow, a scale, never played a scale before. And now, I usually work on things that have to do with what I'm going to perform. So, like right now we have a song in the set that has this 3-chord progression between like what is it? It's like an A major 7th over F sharp, which is really just an F sharp minor 9, and then a B minor over G, and then the same first chord, and then that sort of thing. And I have to figure out how to solo over that. And so for the first chord, I figured out that if I go, and then the was it? And that's just sort of running through it, but then I've got to make it musical by phrasing, you know. And try to make more phrases. So that's, you know, that's how I spend my time. Well, maybe it's the idea that for the first year or two, you're probably not going to sound very good. So you have to have a lot of patience, because it takes a while to get your fingers to go do what you want them to, and to learn the fretboard. And at least for me, I sounded pretty bad for the first couple of years. But I think the other thing is you want to try to sound good as quickly as possible. And you know, I have a lot of students who will try to learn like long, complicated things where there's a lot to memorize, and they'll say like, "Oh, I still need to do a lot of work on this." And it's like, no. You know, learn something simple that you can make sound good, and try to sound good all the time. And you know, so you just find that as soon as possible. And I would say chords. I think chords are really, you know, learn, you know, old 70s rock or Beatles songs. Learn to strum. That sounds good on guitar pretty early on. And you'll learn really good stuff from chords. You learn how to mute unwanted strings. If you play a D chord, you have to not play those bottom strings. That's challenging. You have to be really accurate to not go, to have those, you know, you don't want that. And it's not that hard, sounds good. So learn chords. Well, it's a language, but it's an emotional language, and it's a mathematical language, but it communicates in a way. It's in its own world. It is in a way. And the nice thing about it is it communicates to other musicians, and it also communicates to people who aren't musicians. So you can learn this sort of secret language that all the musicians know, but also people outside of that can understand it in an emotional way. So it's sort of the language of emotion. Well, all of them. And there's more than that. I mean, there's dynamics, there's texture, there's contrast. Well, dynamics is really contrast, where you take anything and you do something different afterwards, the opposite, and it creates drama. But from teaching so much, mostly when people teach guitar, they teach notes and harmony, and not so much rhythm, and not necessarily even rhythm guitar. I mean, rhythm guitar, you know, there's that sort of thing. But you can have a rhythmic solo. So if you have, like, you know, that Aerosmith solo in Dream On, that that's really syncopated. You know, that's like a drum lick. And so, you know, a lot of times people just sort of go up and down the scales and forget about rhythm. And rhythm is so powerful. See a lot of people who have the guitar in the middle of their legs, and they kind of play almost like classical, where the thumb is behind. If you want to play classical guitar, that's great. And actually, there's probably like a lot of modern metal might be okay with that. But if you want to have like cool, strong vibrato, you know, it really helps to have the thumb over. It's just easier to get a grip on the string with your thumb over the top. It's also easier to mute the strings if you kind of bang away. You know, you can just bang away at it more, rather than like, just very careful, don't move anything, because it's very careful. So it's not really, you know, if you're a classical guitar player, it's not a mistake at all. But if you want to play like 70s rock, you know, then you got to have the thumb over. There we go. Where does that start? 1 and 2 and 3. So it's actually almost like a finger exercise at first, because we're in A, hitting the major third, doing chromatic, and then you go down a fret and do that little hammer on.